Hello and welcome. I'm Blair Blackwell, and this is the Daily Cyber Brief. Here's today's rundown of the biggest cybersecurity stories you need to know today. This is the Daily Cyber Brief for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Today, we're looking at a cluster of significant data breaches and extortion cases, a busy slate of actively exploited vulnerabilities, and a shift in how major providers like Google are handling consumer dark web monitoring. Let's start with incidents and breaches. Audio streaming platform SoundCloud has confirmed that recent outages and virtual private network, or VPN, connection issues were the result of a security breach. Threat actors stole a database containing users' email addresses and profile information, and the company's attempts to contain the incident appear to have disrupted VPN access for some users. Meanwhile, the fallout from the 700 credit breach continues to grow. The U.S. financial services firm says it will notify more than 5.8 million people that their personal data was exposed. And in Japan, e-commerce giant Askel has confirmed that the Ransom House Group stole roughly 740,000 customer records in an October ransomware attack. The data theft and extortion theme continues in the consumer space. PornHub is reportedly being extorted by the Shiny Hunters Group after the search and viewing history of its premium members was exposed through a breach at analytics provider Mixpanel. The risk here isn't just financial, it's the highly sensitive nature of the data, which creates strong leverage for extortion and reputational harm. Checkpoint's latest weekly threat intelligence report adds a different angle, highlighting cyber incidents involving GPS spoofing across several major Indian airports. While details are still emerging, it's a reminder that attackers are increasingly probing the intersection of cyber and physical systems, including aviation. On the vulnerability side, there's a lot for defenders to track. Apple has pushed out patches for 2 new zero-day flaws that it says were used in a sophisticated attack. And researchers note overlap with another mysterious zero-day Google fixed last week. That comes alongside a broader weekly recap from the Hacker News, pointing to active exploitation of critical bugs across everyday software like mobile platforms, web browsers, and common utilities. CISA has also added 2 more issues to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog: a hard-coded cryptography problem in Gladinet's CenterStack and TrioFox products, and a use-after-free bug in Apple's WebKit engine. Both are being used in real-world attacks, and U.S. federal agencies are under orders to remediate them on a deadline. Telecom and collaboration infrastructure is also in the spotlight. Researchers at Horizon 3 AI disclosed multiple security flaws in the open-source FreePBX phone system, including SQL injection, file upload issues, and an authentication-type bypass that can enable remote code execution under certain configurations. Patches are available, but the mix of internet-facing deployments and voice-over IP environments means this will be a priority area for many IT teams. Separately, Google's Threat Intelligence Unit has now linked 5 additional Chinese state-aligned groups to exploitation of the maximum severity React to Shell remote code execution vulnerability, underscoring that once a high-impact bug becomes public, multiple actors move quickly to weaponize it. Looking more broadly at the threat landscape, we're also seeing continual evolution in attacker tooling and tradecraft. A new information-stealing malware service called Santa Stealer is being advertised on Telegram and underground forums, marketed as running purely in memory to evade traditional, file-based detection. And 2025's phishing trend analysis points to attacks moving well beyond email, with adversaries abusing social platforms, search advertising, and browser-based techniques to bypass multi-factor authentication and hijack active sessions. At the same time, a new analysis of the VolkLocker ransomware used by the pro-Russia CyberVolk group finds that while the latest variant has been upgraded, it also carries a cryptographic weakness that may allow some victims to decrypt their own files without paying. There are also a few policy and ecosystem shifts worth noting. Google has announced it will discontinue its consumer dark web report tool in early 2026, with scans for new breaches halting in mid-January and the feature shutting down a month later as the company reallocates its efforts to other security tools. In the insurance market, dark reading highlights how specialized managing general agents are shaping cyber policies to better track the realities Chief Information Security Officers face, potentially tightening the link between technical controls, insurability, and premiums over time. For organizations, the immediate impact cuts across several areas. Data-heavy platforms, from streaming and adult content services to fintech and e-commerce, are again in the spotlight, reinforcing that customer identity data and behavioral records remain prime targets for extortion and resale. Enterprises running Apple devices, WebKit-based browsers, or products in CISA's exploited catalog face increased pressure to validate their exposure and accelerate patching cycles. Operators of voice systems and collaboration infrastructure should be paying close attention to the free PBX disclosures, while any environment using web-exposed frameworks vulnerable to React to Shell should assume multiple threat actors are actively scanning and attempting compromise. Looking ahead over the next few days, the most time-sensitive items are the actively exploited vulnerabilities, Apple's new 0 days, CISA's catalog additions, the free PBX flaws, and continued React to Shell activity. Expect ongoing updates as vendors refine patches and as threat intel teams map out which groups are exploiting which bugs. On the incident side, watch for additional details and potential regulatory scrutiny around the 700 credit and ASCL breaches, as well as any further confirmation of the scale and impact of GPS spoofing in aviation. Today, I'll be watching how identity-centric attacks continue to evolve, especially phishing that bypasses multi-factor authentication and new information stealer services like Santa Stealer. I'll also keep an eye on cloud-hosted and web-exposed platforms involved in recent breaches, on telecom and collaboration systems potentially affected by free PBX issues, and on any expansion of state-linked exploitation of major vulnerabilities like React to Shell and Apple's WebKit bug. The takeaway: security teams are facing a familiar but demanding mix: sensitive data breaches, active exploitation of high-impact vulnerabilities, and steady innovation in phishing and malware. The volume is high, but the patterns are clear, and organizations that stay disciplined on visibility, patching, and identity protection will be best positioned as these stories develop. That's it for today's edition of the Daily Cyber Brief. Thanks for listening. I'm Blair Blackwell. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not cybersecurity, legal, or financial advice.